Champion Stakes. 8 selected dogs, the best dogs in the country, at Newmarket. Once again the meeting's held over the Duke of Sutherland's magnificent estate at Stechworth. The last 7 runnings of the Champion Stakes have been sponsored by Dick Bilborough, but this, the 9th running, was sponsored by Nick Reed-Herbert of the Newmarket Galleries. It was the richest 8-dog stake ever run in England, with a total prize money of over £1,000. An enormous crowd assembled on a cold, wintry morning. The field was cleared by the spectators, while the Duke of Sutherland's keeper, Derek Medlock, set out his beat. The 8 contestants had won 97 of their 120 courses in public. The first shown is Kerry Model, a second-season white and blue dog by Knockash Rover out of Kerry Angel. Owned by Liz Hall and John Walsh, who's pictured here, he's trained by Audrey Hall in Yorkshire. He'd won 4 of his 5 courses in England. He was to meet Panini, a second-season fawn dog by Glenroe Hiker out of Spring Fair Green. Owned and trained by Lorraine Sarid in Derbyshire, he'd won 13 of his 18 courses, including beating Kerry Model in the final of the Sefton Stakes at Altcar a month previously. The second brace were to be Balliard Linden, pictured here, a 3rd-season fawn bitch by Timworth Edward out of Linden Lancia. Although bred in England, she's owned and trained by Michael Hennety at Cork in Ireland. She'd won 2 of her 3 courses in England. She was also a desperately unlucky loser in the 3rd round of the Waterloo Cup. She was due to meet Sahara Flame, a 3rd-season white and brindled dog by Desert Pilot out of lasting fame. Owned by Mike Gilliard and Tony Beeston, he was trained by Peter Sant in Cheshire. He'd won 8 of his 9 courses last season, including the £3,000 Barbican Cup. The 3rd brace was to bring together Elliot, a 3rd-season fawn dog by Lion's Share out of Rosanna. Owned and trained by Ian Gribble in Kent, he'd won 11 of his 14 courses. He'd been the best of the English-bred dogs in last year's Waterloo Cup when he reached the semi-finals. He'd also won the George Gifford Trophy at Huntington and divided the Champion Puppy Cup. He was to meet a real speed merchant in Arbroath Street, a 3rd-season black dog by Squirrel's Clown out of Spiretown Red. Owned by Alex Smith and trained by Gordon Bailey in Norfolk, he'd won 17 of his 21 courses, including last year's Champion Stakes, and been favourite for last year's Waterloo Cup. The last brace brought together Camp Coffee, a 4th-season red fawn dog by Camp Leveler out of Pancake. Owned and trained by John Barrow in Gloucestershire, he'd won 29 of his 35 courses. The most consistent winner of recent years, he'd won the Scottish National Cup twice, the Champion Puppy Cup and the Champion Stakes itself 2 years ago. He was to meet Parsons Butler, a 3rd-season red fawn dog by Timworth Edward out of Cider Without. Owned by David Midwood and Simon Taylor locally, he was trained by Charlie Howard at Norfolk. He'd won 13 of his 15 courses, including the Champion Stakes purse, and been divider of 4 stakes, including the Champion Puppy Cup at Newmarket. He'd only been led twice. The 8 contestants then assembled for the field photographer to take their photographs for posterity. On the left was slipper Bob Blatch, and on the right was Ronnie Mills. At the call over the night before at the well-attended dinner at Tattersall's sales paddocks, the betting had been 2-1 Arbroath Streak, 7-2 Kerry Model, 4-1 Balliard Linden, 8-1 Elliot and Panini, 10-1 Parsons Butler and Sahara Flame, and 12-1 Camp Coffee. With the photographic session over, the coursing started. The first stake was the Derek Medlock Stakes, named after the Duke of Sutherland's keeper. In slips first were High Road on the red, who was to lead Castanella on the white by 1.5 lengths on an inside. The hare was always living dangerously. High Road flecked, and Castanella finished off the job to lose. High Road was the winner in a 35-second course. The next brace brought together 2 fast bitches in Distant Echo and Connie. Distant Echo was on the red collar and Connie on the white. Distant Echo led by 1.5 lengths. Connie pulling down to lose after 14 seconds. Distant Echo was the winner. The third brace brought together Impish Conwoman, a prolific winner last season, and React Cheetah, a litter sister to Here and There, the winner of last year's Waterloo Cup. They were just about level for pace. But React Cheetah was just up, the hare slightly favouring her. And although there was 52 seconds work to follow, Impish Conwoman could never quite turn the tables. When the hare made its escape after 52 seconds, it was React Cheetah on the white collar who was the winner. The last brace in the Derek Medlock Stakes for bitches brought together Spring Heaven on the red collar and Wise Bonnie. Both of these bitches had done well in top-class stakes last season. But Spring Heaven on the red collar was quickly out of slips, and she led by 4 lengths to the first turn. Wise Bonnie is renowned for her working ability, but Spring Heaven too can course a bit, and the two bitches swapped points as the hare made its way back eventually into the beat after 63 seconds coursing. Hard though Wise Bonnie tried, Spring Heaven kept on breaking the sequences.
What's so difficult with the scoring is that you've got to make them turn the hare rather than the hare turn them, you see what I mean? That's what the judges will be so close for. She's just, they're just still turning her there, turning her again, turning. Go on, buddy!
So she's actually there. She's got a measure.
The two bitches exchanged points throughout, but after 63 seconds, Spring Heaven on the red collar was the winner. All eyes were now on the Champion Stakes. The first brace in slips were Kerry Model on the red collar and Panini on the white. They had contested the final of the Sefton Stakes only a month previously, when Kerry Model under handicap had led Panini. This time it was different. Panini was always in front and led Kerry Model to the first turn by a length.
White again, 3 wide.
For two fast dogs, they coursed pretty well. Kerry Model, however, sized in from a wide outside to pick up and end the course after 33 seconds. Panini, however, on the white collar was the winner. The next brace brought together Balliard Linden from Ireland on the red and Sahara Flame on the white. The hare slightly favoured Balliard Linden. Even so, Sahara Flame led by half a length. Both dogs coursed beautifully. Sahara Flame ended matters after 30 seconds to be a convincing winner. The third brace brought together Elliot on the red and Arbroath Streak on the white. Arbroath Streak was a hot favourite, his pace being undisputed first time in. He blasted from slips and led the consistent Elliot by 3 lengths, the hare just favouring him. Hard though Elliot tried, he never just had the pace to get in. And Arbroath Street drove the hare back into the beat to be a convincing winner after 37 seconds coursing. The last brace in the Champion Stakes were probably the most evenly matched for pace. Camp Coffee on the red collar, Parsons Butler on the white. Encouraged by their owners, they were absolutely level throughout the run-up, Parsons Butler just putting his nose in front to squeak the first turn. There was, however, over a minute's coursing to follow, but most of it took place out of view from the crowd, the hare working its way out of the field and the dogs coursing on across a wheat field out of sight. When Judge Ronnie Mills finally came back into view, it was Parsons Butler on the white collar who had just led, who was the winner after 62 seconds work. John Barrow walked back to collect camp coffee as Alex Smith, coursing's newest bookmaker, moved his enormous bookmaking contraption across the field for a change of beat. The Newmarket Galleries Cup is sponsored by Nick Reed Herbert and usually brings to the fore one of the season's top puppies. The first race in slips were Panther on the red and Bailey Britton on the white. Panther blasted out to have the longest lead of the day. He led Bailey Britton by 10 lengths. And scored virtually every other point in a course lasting some 59 seconds. Although the course ended out of sight, it would have been a major surprise if Ronnie Mills hadn't pulled the red flag. Next in slips was Juniper on the red, who'd run most promisingly at Altcar in a well-contested puppy stake, and Sporting Soldier on the white. In a grand run-up, it was Sporting Soldier that was just up at the first turn, the hare slightly favouring him. If anybody had thought Juniper to be unlucky, however, in the subsequent course, it was all Sporting Soldier. The dogs lost sight of the hare momentarily in the long grass here that ran in the middle of the valley. But when they sighted it again, once more it was Sporting Soldier who forced his way to the fore. Juniper must be accounted to be rather disappointing on this running. The third brace in the Newmarket Galleries Cup brought together Seldom Daunted on the red and Nissan Bob on the white. In a classic run-up of gigantic length, the dogs were neck and neck until Nissan Bob drew away, nearing the hare to lead by half a length.
Now you're more interested,
Seldom Daunted could never really get a look in behind a particularly strong hare that made its way out at the top of the field through the pine wood after 54 seconds, leaving Nissan Bob a clear winner. The next course was to see the lead overturned for the first time. Mr. Chance, running for the first time on the white collar, led Judge's bench on the red collar by 2 lengths. But he virtually never scored another point. Even so, it must have been a desperately close decision. Went for Judge Ronnie Mills, who pulled the red flag and awarded the course to Judge's bench. The Newmarket Galleries Stakes was next on the card, again sponsored by Nick Reed Herbert. This generally brings out one of the season's top bitch puppies. The first pair were Pure Air on the red collar and Fine Wine on the white. Fine Wine led Pure Air by half a length and had nearly every point of merit in the subsequent course, the hare working her way back into the beat when she came. When the hare popped into cover at the end of a course lasting for 41 seconds, Fine Wine was a clear winner. The beat was then changed, and it proved to be quite an undertaking for the meeting's organisers. An enormous number of cars had assembled. The next field being a rather narrow stubble field, enormous difficulty was experienced in fitting them all in without affecting the hare's running. The coursing started with the second brace in the Newmarket Galleries Stakes. Really Excel was on the red collar, meeting Jess, who was running for the first time. Jess is owned by David Minton, who has been commentator at the Newmarket meetings for many years. Jess came away from slips fastest, but Really Excel drew away to lead by 1.5 lengths at the first turn. In a superb course, Really Excel won every single point. And the crowd were treated to 140 seconds work. A nightmare for the dog's owners, but marvellous for the spectators. A stout hare was never in the slightest danger when she finally made her way out at the top of the field over onto Mr. Peter Taylor's adjoining estate at Dullingham. The third course in the Newmarket Galleries Stakes saw Snowdrop on the red collar meet Get Happy on the white collar. It was a muddling affair, the hare swinging first left and then right just before the dogs turned it. The judge gave the lead to Get Happy on the white collar, who was just up. The course lasted only 26 seconds with the hare going straight into the belt. This gave Snowdrop no chance of reply. The last brace in the Newmarket Galleries Stakes saw Spring Carly and Just Beyond meet. Spring Carly was on the red collar, but it was Just Beyond who was always in front and led by some 5 lengths despite the hare swinging left and Spring Carly cutting the corner. With the hare again going into the belt after only 25 seconds, there was no doubt about the winner, Just Beyond. We then commenced the second round of the Derek Medlock Stakes for bitches, and a most interesting first course ensued. Distant Echo was on the white collar and had been out for 14 seconds, and she led High Road, who had been out for 25 seconds, by 2.5 lengths to the first turn. However, High Road then cannoned into Distant Echo. And Distant Echo must have been injured, because she never scored another point. Even when the hare went her way, High Road was always going the faster. There then followed what must have been a vital and course-winning go-by. High Road coming from fully 2 lengths behind to lead 2 lengths at the next turn. It was no surprise when Judge Ronnie Mills pulled the red flag and High Road was the winner, having overturned the lead for the 2nd time in the meeting. The beat was then up, and a short move was called for to go on to another stubble field. Spring Heaven then was led React Cheetah on the red collar, but it was a very muddling course. React Cheetah appeared to go unsighted. Spring Heaven then collided with a car, React Cheetah getting in for some points while she recovered. However, the lead was vital, and Spring Heaven sharing the work before the hare was eventually pulled down after some 60 seconds coursing. But everything happened in this course, because before Spring Heaven could be picked up, she got onto another hare. It was a great shame that such an interesting course should have been such a muddling affair. In the first semi-final of the Champion Stakes, Panini led well, but Sahara Flame appeared to be running unsighted. Panini led and did the bulk of the work, but it's very difficult to assess Sahara Flame on this running because the course only lasted some 38 seconds. Before the hare popped out into the wood at the end of the field. The second semi-final for the Champion Stakes brought together Arbroath Streak, who'd been out for 37 seconds on the red collar, and Parsons Butler, who'd been out for 62. Arbroath Streak was unbackable. He led Parsons Butler, who was obviously the more tired of the two, by some 4 lengths. Although Parsons Butler tried his best, Arbroath Streak was always in control of the situation. And when the hare made its way into the right-hand wood, there was no doubt that Arbroath Streak was a convincing winner. The final of the Champion Stakes, therefore, was to rest between Panini, who'd been out for 66 seconds, and Arbroath Streak, who'd been out for 75, a very level affair. The dogs were then called for the Champion Purse. This is for the dogs beaten in the first round of the Champion Stakes proper. Balliard Linden, as is traditional with Irishmen, ran her bye alone on the withdrawal of Kerry Model. She coursed beautifully. The hare was always determined to make the wood on the right-hand side of the slipper, and she popped away after 30 seconds coursing. The other semi-final was a more closely contested affair. Elliot had been out for 37 seconds on the red collar and Camp Coffee for 62. Elliot was always in control and led Camp Coffee by some 3 lengths. These are 2 good working English dogs, however, and the course was not yet lost. But Elliot was always going the better and scored a most meritorious kill when the hare looked to be well in charge. He was a convincing winner, having been out for 31 seconds. The semi-finalists for the Newmarket Galleries Cup were then called. Panther on the red collar was to meet Sporting Soldier, who had surprisingly beaten Juniper. Panther led by 2 lengths. And in a course of only 27 seconds duration, the hare always wanting to make the wood behind the crowd, Sporting Soldier had no chance to retrieve the situation. He killed to lose after 27 seconds. The second semi-final in the Dog Puppy Stakes saw Nissan Bob on the red collar lead judges bench on the white collar by 2 lengths. They were virtually level on handicap, Nissan Bob having been out for 54 seconds and judges bench for 47. They pulled down after 20 seconds coursing, Nissan Bob being a clear winner. The next semi-finals were those for the Newmarket Galleries Stakes for bitch puppies. Fine Wine on the red collar was to meet Really Excel on the white collar. Fine Wine was unbackable, having been out for only 41 seconds, whereas Really Excel had had a 140-second grueler. Not surprisingly, Fine Wine led by 4 lengths, but the dogs then split onto separate hares, and Judge Ronnie Mills immediately pulled for the dog that had led, quite correctly. Fine Wine being the winner. She coursed on for another 62 seconds. The other semi-finals saw Get Happy on the red collar meet Just Beyond on the white. They were absolutely level on handicap, 26 and 25 seconds respectively. Just Beyond on the white collar led by 1.5 lengths. They coursed on the field for 37 seconds, but went on quite a way out of view, Just Beyond on the white collar being the winner. The morning's coursing was concluded with the final of the Sutton Manor. Spot Aspire on the red collar led Carlton on the white collar by 1/2 length, but for the 3rd time in the meeting, the lead was overturned. The 2 dogs had had some punishing courses at Bolsham the day before. Carlton had been out for 183 seconds, and Spot Aspire for 193. They were fairly level on handicap, but both looked hard dogs, and Spot Aspire never scored again after the first turn. It was no surprise, therefore, when Carlton on the white collar was the winner after a course lasting 51 seconds as the hare made her way back into the beat. 27 courses had been run by 5 minutes to 1, as the crowd then wended its way back to the paddock by the farmhouse for one of the King's Head's celebrated lunches in the marquee. The weather by now was perfect. Nick Reed Herbert is shown here having a drink with Angie Delahook, and Derek Medlock, the Duke of Sutherland's keeper, John McCririck and Crispin Dennis, a great coursing man of years gone by. Eric Kettenacke dispensed goodwill in the tent and could barely cope with the crowd. John Briggs was down from Altcar, and so was the veritable John Wignall, seen drinking high-class wine straight from the bottle. Hugh Collingridge, the secretary, was attending to his duties, Ian Forbes, also from Altcar and the owner-trainer of Nissan Bob. Kathy Parker, shown at her best. And Sam Blanning, a coursing correspondent of the future, perhaps. Michael Patrick, Chris Johnson, Greville Starkey, kissing his trainer, June Darnell. Altogether a very happy scene. The finals were then run on a big wheat field, the other side of the road, the public all walking down. They made a splendid sight, and God knows what a passing motorist must have thought of it all. The first final to be run was the final of the Derek Medlock Stakes for bitches. This brought together High Road on the red collar, who'd been out for 97 seconds, and Spring Heaven on the white, who'd been out for 126. Handicap told its tale. Behind a particularly strong hare, High Road led by 2 lengths. Spring Heaven is renowned for her working ability, but the hare was always going so strongly that she could never get the requisite number of turns out of it, and the lead was always going to prove decisive. With the hare running down along the bank of the celebrated Devil's Dyke, High Road was once more back in command, and Judge Ronnie Mills had no doubt in pulling the red flag to signal High Road the winner of the Derek Medlock Stakes. All eyes were then out for the final of the Champion Stakes. Arbroath Streak on the white collar was a hot favourite, but he was tired and very lame. Panini on the red collar had been out for 66 seconds, Arbroath Streak for 75. Arbroath Streak showed briefly in front, but Panini gradually drew clear to lead by 1.5 lengths, the hare slightly favouring the white collar. They changed sides just before the turn. With the crowd cheering on their fancy, both dogs had a crack at the hare, but the hare was always going the best of the 3. Arbroath Streak finally pulling up, exhausted and lame, as Panini coursed his way into the record books as the 9th winner of the Champion Stakes. The Champion Stakes purse is sponsored by the Curragh Bloodstock Agency, and it produced a magnificent course. Balliard Linden over from Ireland was on the red. She'd been out for 60 seconds, and Elliott on the white collar had been out for 74. They were virtually level on handicap. Bob Blatch pretended he'd seen the hare on the left, but he hadn't till the crowd shouted. And Balliard Linden burst from slips to lead by 1.5 lengths to the first turn. A fascinating course ensued. Judge Ronnie Mills declared there was only 1 point in it at the end. Balliard Linden was very lame for the final, and hard though she struggled, it was Elliott that was in control as the hare burst through the crowd and left the field as it went back into the beat. There was a pause before Judge Ronnie Mills pulled the white flag to signify that the lead had been overturned for the 4th time in the meeting, leaving Elliott the winner of the Champion Stakes purse. The last final produced a tremendous run-up between Nissan Bob on the white collar and Panther on the red. Nissan Bob just led. The judge said he was just up. He'd had 108 seconds before, and Panther 86. Panther, however, was pretty lame going to slips. And once Nissan Bob had led at the first turn, even though Panther got in for a short sequence here, Nissan Bob was always likely to be the winner. And in fact, it was Panther that pulled up. Allowing Nissan Bob to course on and win the Newmarket Galleries Cup for dog puppies. Two hares then came through together, and then the beat was up, allowing the Newmarket Galleries Stakes to be divided between Fine Wine and Just Beyond. Their owners seemed pretty relieved and didn't really want a final in any case. As ever at the Champion Stakes, the prize giving was well attended, and there were some magnificent trophies on view. The first trophy was awarded to Greville Starkey, the famous flat race jockey, who in partnership with Frank Durr, the well-known Newmarket trainer, had won his first stake with his first dog, Carlton. The trophy was given away by the sponsor's granddaughter, Harry Thompson-Jones's granddaughter here, Penny Hayne, receiving a kiss from Greville Starkey and giving away the magnificent Sutton Manor trophy.
Is that your first dog, Greville?
What a way to start your coursing career.
Well done, Greville. Thank you very much indeed. Mr. Medlock and I got rattier than usual today.
Derek Medlock was then called upon to give away the bottle of scotch to Mr. Sheehan, the owner of High Road, who'd won the Derek Medlock Stakes for bitches. Mr. Sheehan had been forced to leave early, so Bill Stedman, chairman of the National Coursing Club, who's probably done more for coursing than any man living, received the trophy from Mr. Medlock, who had done such a superb job organising the complicated beats.
And then we come to the Newmarket Galleries Cup, owned by Ian Forbes and trained by the owner.
Thanks to Nick Reed-Herbert's generosity, the Champion Stakes meeting was as rich as ever, and he gave away the Newmarket Galleries Cup to Ian Forbes, the owner and trainer of Nissan Bob.
Well done, Ian. And Ian gave us a very, very generous presentation to pay for all the radios too.
Ian had been particularly generous to the club in putting up the money for videos, which are so essential to control the beats.
Was divided between Fine Wine, owned and trained by Freddie Welsh.
The Newmarket Galleries Stakes have been divided between Just Beyond, seen here with Diana Brodie, and Fine Wine, seen here with Freddie Welsh.
Get them both in. Can you get them both in?
Fine Wine was rather reluctant at the photographic session,
Right, thank you very much indeed.
but Nick Reed-Herbert was more forthcoming and kissed Diana Brodie to everyone's delight.
And then we come to the Champion Stakes. This was sponsored by Dick Bilborough for the first 7 years, who's sadly not here today, and Nick Reed-Herbert has kindly taken over. The Cup is sponsored by the Field magazine, who did so from the inception, and it was their idea. And we have today Mr. Simon Courtauld, who's the editor of the Field, and Nick Reed-Herbert to give away the Cup. Mr. Courtauld is going to give away the mementos, and Lady Turnbull is going to give away the splendid old Champion Stakes Cup there. That was first run for in 1835. And the runner-up, and a very, very game runner-up indeed, I thought was Arbroath Streak.
Alex Smith, the owner of Arbroath Streak, received his memento from Simon Courtauld, the editor of the Field.
They've been great fun, and their dog ran superbly. Ronnie Mills told me there was only one...
Arbroath Streak having been runner-up in the stake that he won last year. The Irish too, Michael Hennety and Ballyard Linden, received a tremendous ovation from the crowd for their very sporting attempt at English coursing's premier 8-dog stake.
Very game dog, owned, trained and bred by Ian Gribble from the Romney Marsh. Elliot, well done.
Ian Gribble, the owner and trainer of Elliot, came forward to receive the crowd's congratulations on having won the Champion Stakes purse with his very game dog.
Winner of this year's Champion Stakes, Panini, owned and trained.
And finally, Lorraine Sarid, the owner and trainer of Panini, a very worthy winner of the 9th running of the Champion Stakes.
With the cup.
A second season fawn dog by Glenroe Hiker out of Spring Fairgreen. He has now won 16 of his 21 courses and must be favourite of the English dogs to win the Waterloo Cup in February.
And finally, Lady Turnbull to give Lorraine the magnificent cup which Mr. Tucker's loaned to the club. Lady Turnbull is the chairman, and she gives me more bollockings than anybody else.
And so as Lady Turnbull, on behalf of Mr. Tuck, gave away the magnificent Champion Stakes trophy, first run for in 1835, to Lorraine Sarid, a magnificent day's coursing had ended.
Thank you very much for coming, and we hope you'll see you in January. Thank you all very much indeed.
There is no prize as such for the winner of the Champion Stakes purse, so Sophie Waddilove gave one of her celebrated homemade cakes to Ian Gribble. The Alt Car contingent made their way home, and the day's sport was complete. What was on everybody's lips is what would happen to these dogs in the Waterloo Cup in February. December the 17th, 1986, Champion Stakes Day at Hall Farm, Stechworth. This was the second day of the two-day meeting, the first day having taken place at Balsham. The Champion Stakes for the Field Trophy was kindly sponsored this year by Mr. Pat Whelan of Liverpool, the purse by David Minton Bloodstock Agency. With a total of £1,801 prize money, this was the richest 8-dog stake ever run for in this country. The meeting, however, started with the semi-finals of the Sutton Manor Trophy, the first 2 rounds having been run the previous day. Mona's Boy on the red collar had been out for 186 seconds, Carlton on the white for 135. Mona's Boy did well to lead. He was just up on an inside. He scored the next 2 points. But Carlton is renowned for his work, and he took over from here and dominated the remainder of the course.
He lose it. He lose the course. He was leading.
For the second time in his 3 courses in this stake, Carlton had overturned the lead. In the other course, he had a bye.
White, Carlton, white, Carlton.
The second brace, to complete the semi-finals of the Sutton Manor Trophy, were Juniper on the red collar and Mossfield Shadow on the white. Juniper had had 2 short courses at Balsham totalling 50 seconds, whereas Mossfield Shadow had had 87 seconds plus. Further, the hare slightly favoured Juniper. The brindle Juniper was clearly in front, on points, when the dogs disappeared into some dead ground. There was no surprise for the crowd when Judge Ronnie Mills pulled for the red collar, Juniper. Both these semi-finals were about the same length of time, Carlton's lasting 44 seconds and Juniper's 47. The Champion Stakes were next in slips. Shown here is Fairy King, a second season black dog by Watling Street out of Spring Fairgreen, Owned by Fenton Kerwin and trained by Michael Parker in Norfolk, he'd won 10 of his 13 courses and had run up for the Sefton Trophy in October. He's a half-brother to Panini. Fairy King was 12-1 for the call-over. Timworth Tom, shown here, was 6-1. A third-season red fawn dog by Timworth Edward out of Crooked Woman. He's owned by Sir Mark Prescott and David Morley and trained by Charlie Howard in Norfolk. He'd won 7 of his 11 courses and had only been led once, and that was by Arbroath Streak, the 1984 Champion Stakes winner. Earl Marshall, shown here, was 9-1 at the call-over the previous night. A second-season red fawn dog by Laughing Stroller out of Damerica. He's owned by Diana Ellis and Richard Magor and trained, like Timworth Tom, by Charlie Howard in Norfolk. He'd won 11 of his 14 courses, including the Swaffham Cup. He was to meet Panini, 6-1 at the call-over, last year's Champion Stakes winner. A third-season fawn dog by Glenroe Hiker out of Spring Fair Green. He's owned and trained by Lorraine Starrid in Derbyshire and was last season's top coursing dog, having won 19 of his 26 courses. The second half was headed by 1-7. Heavily backed at the call-over, he was 6-1. A second-season white and brindle dog by Balliard Saab out of Pure Poison. He's owned and trained by Arthur Pryor and Danny Riordan in Essex. He'd won 13 of his 14 courses, was last season's top puppy, winning the Champion Puppy Cup at Newmarket, and had run up for the BFSS Trophy. He was due to meet Kerry Model, 13-2 at the call-over. A third-season white and blue dog by Knockash Rover out of Kerry Angel. He's owned by Liz Hall and John Walsh in partnership and trained by Audrey Hall in Yorkshire. He'd won 6 of his 9 courses and was a beautifully bred Irish dog. He'd run up for the Sefton to Panini the previous year. Sahara Flame, shown here with his owners Tony Beeston and Mike Gilliard, is a fourth-season white and brindled dog by Desert Pilot out of Lasting Fame. Trained by Peter Sant in Cheshire, he'd won 14 of his 18 courses and was 10-1 at the call-over. A dog with a fine record, he'd won the Barbican Cup in 85 and the Purse in 86. West End was the favourite, 5-2 at the call-over. A third-season red and fawn dog by Laughing Stroller out of Dynamite Esther. He's owned by Diana Ellis and Richard Magor. Trained by Charlie Howard in Norfolk, his third runner in this stake. West End had won 14 of his 18 courses and was a hot favourite, 5-2. After the 2 preliminary courses, the dogs were now in slips for the first round of the Champion Stakes. The flank was out. First brace were Fairy King on the red collar and Timworth Tom on the white collar. To a good slip, Fairy King was fast into his stride, but Timworth Tom drew up halfway up the run-up and forged clear to lead by 2 lengths. Fairy King struck and just missed, but then had the best of the course. And it was beginning to look as if it might be a close decision, as the hare made her way towards the belt. But she popped back into the field, allowing Timworth Tom to score twice. And this was probably decisive. Judge Ronnie Mills said there was only 1 point in it at the end, and Timworth Tom was the winner of a 61-second course. The next pair were Earl Marshall on the red collar and Panini on the white.
I don't know what's the change to.
The hare came close to the slipper on the right-hand side. Panini drew clear to lead by 2 lengths at the first turn, but fell. And just as he was getting into the course again, the dogs barged, and Panini got the worst of it. This left Earl Marshall well placed to work off the lead. but a strong hare never really allowed him to use her. And she made her way out of the field at the top right-hand corner, leaving Panini the winner. The course lasted 48 seconds. Next in slips was the heavily backed 1-7 on the red collar and Kerry Model on the white. The hare couldn't have come closer to the slipper. One to 7 gradually drew clear and was a length and a half in front at the first turn. With the hare coming round towards Kerry Model on the white collar, Kerry Model was placed for the next few points. But 1 to 7 forced himself in again. And just when Kerry Model appeared to have assumed control, 1 to 7 was in again and drove the hare to cover back into the belt when she'd come. It was an impressive performance. You can see how soft the ground was by how muddy the dog's legs are. This course lasted 49 seconds and 1 to 7 was a clear winner. The last brace was Sahara Flame on the red and West End on the white collar. The favourite was always held, and Sahara Flame led by 1.5 lengths on an inside. As they disappeared into the dead ground, Sahara Flame was in front. Judge Ronnie Mills had little hesitation in pulling for the red collar, Sahara Flame, at the end of a 56-second course.
Sahara Flame!
We then moved on to the Newmarket Galleries Cup Division 1, sponsored once again by Nick Reed Herbert for dog puppies. First brace in slips were Snake's Head on the red and Alveston Donny on the white. Alveston Donny led by half a length. With the hare determined to go back into the beat, both puppies worked well.
No?
And Alveston Donny on the white collar was the winner of a 45-second course. The next course was a double bye, Mary Birkbeck's dogs having been withdrawn due to kennel sickness. Wise Bomber on the red collar showed his inexperience and failed to pull out of slips, allowing Timworth Fred to score the first points. But observant judges noted the amount of ground that Wise Bomber made up. Timworth Fred had run at Altcar earlier in the season and was a good winner. He knew his job. Even so, Wise Bomber was getting the hang of things as the course wore on, and many people put him in their notebooks as a dog that was likely to improve. A jinky little hare gave them plenty of practice. Before she made herself safe by disappearing into the belt at the top from whence she had originally come. Here again, Wise Bomber showed his inexperience. He was nervous to be picked up.
Keep on.
That was a double bye. That was a double bye.
The last course in the Newmarket Galleries Cup was between Sam Lord on the red collar and Travail Boy on the white. Travail Boy came from behind to lead by 2 lengths and appeared to be going fast. His speed saw him score the next point too. But thereafter Sam Lord assumed control. And for an inexperienced puppy, coursed well and showed splendid reserves of stamina. By this stage, he appeared to most people to be in front, but Ronnie Mills galloped after them to make certain. And sure enough, Sam Lord on the red collar was the winner of a 72-second course. The Newmarket Gallery's Stakes is also sponsored by Nick Reed Herbert and is for bitch puppies. Cherry Orchard on the white collar was due for a bye as Ease Up, trained by Mary Birkbeck, was absent. The owners elected to give her a solo bye. It's always a risk on a field like this where the hares are running so strongly. Blatch gave the hare enormous law, and Cherry Orchard only just turned her at the bottom of the field. She quickly swung right and left the field at the top right-hand corner and subjected poor Cherry Orchard to 71 seconds coursing on some heavy plough. The first beat was then up. It had produced some splendid coursing, and an enormous crowd, quite the biggest seen at Newmarket for many years, had to move now a quarter of a mile into the centre of the estate. The second course in the Newmarket Gallery Stakes was between Wall Street Crash on the red collar and Cindy Again on the white. Wall Street Crash had won the previous week at Cotswolds and looked sure to lead here, but unfortunately the hare swung violently to the right, allowing Cindy Again to lead by a length on a big inside. Nothing went right for Wall Street Crash, who fell heavily, allowing Cindy Again to assume control. Yet another strong hare never looked likely to give Wall Street Crash a chance to retrieve the situation. And after 71 seconds, the hare left the field, leaving Cindy Again a convincing but possibly lucky winner. The third brace saw Bent Lady on the red collar, owned by sponsor Nick Reed Herbert, meet It's Fly on the white collar. Once again, the hare swung to the right. It's Fly on the favoured white collar led by 4 lengths on a big inside, and in a course lasting only 44 seconds, poor Bent Lady was never in with a chance. As always, when the hares aren't running just as the organisers would wish, for the next course, which was a bye for the Paget on the white collar, Wonderful Gleam from Devon being absent, the hare went as straight as a gun barrel right across the field. Just a couple of turns and the hare was away on the opposite side of the field, but 50 seconds work ensued for the Paget in this bye. The champion dogs were now back in slips. Timworth Tom on the red collar had been out for 61 seconds and Panini on the white for 48 seconds. A straight hare was badly needed to test these dogs' merit. Unfortunately, almost immediately they were wide from slips. And Timworth Tom on the red collar, enjoying an inside, led Panini by a length. Coursing the hare has never been Timworth Tom's strongest point. And once he fell here, Panini assumed control and won a 47-second course convincingly. The next race saw 1-7 on the red collar, who'd been out for 49 seconds, meet Sahara Flame on the white collar, who'd been out for 56 seconds. 1-7 ran most impressively. He led on a perfectly straight hare by 2.5 lengths and then dominated the course. In fact, 1-7 must have been on nearly double scoring before poor Sahara Flame got in at all. At this point, the hare looked likely to leave the field at the top end, but she'd changed her mind, coming down beside the hedge and behind the crowd. Although it's not shown on the film, she popped through the hedge in the dip and subjected the dogs to a bit more work. Officially, the course lasted 54 seconds with 1-7 the winner. The Champion Stakes purse dogs were next in slips. Fairy King on the red had been out for 61 seconds and Earl Marshall on the white for 48. Earl Marshall was always going the faster. And although the hare swung to the right, there was no doubt that Earl Marshall would have led in any case. Poor Fairy King could never really get in, and Earl Marshall was a convincing winner of a 45-second course when the hare popped out of the field. The next brace saw Kerry Model on the red meet the erstwhile favourite West End on the white. Kerry Model had been out for 49 seconds and West End for 56. They were virtually level on handicap. This wasn't West End's meeting. He got led half a length by Kerry Model, who was on the outside. West End tried hard to retrieve the situation, but in a course of only 42 seconds duration, there wasn't enough time, and Kerry Model hunted to cover. We then stayed on the same field, the first beat being exhausted, and now drove the land the other way. In slips were Wise Bomber on the red collar and Alveston Donny on the white for the second round of the Newmarket Galleries Cup. Once again, Wise Bomber showed his inexperience and failed to pull from slips. The hare, however, swung his way, and this probably enabled him to lead Alveston Donny on the white collar by a length. Wise Bomber had been out for 54 seconds in his previous course and Alveston Donny 45, so they were virtually level on handicap. But it's seldom that one of Bill Beaton's dogs gets beaten after the turn, and in a course of 44 seconds, Wise Bomber on the red was the winner. The next brace saw Timworth Fred on the red collar, who'd been out for 54, meet Sam Lord on the white, who'd been out for 72. Sam Lord had overturned the lead most impressively against Travail Boy in the previous round. He got just the course he wanted. The hare circled viciously and disappeared through the flank. The judge therefore could award no points for pace. A working course is just what Sam Lord wants, and he worked brilliantly to win the 43-second course easily.
Whose dog is it?
Audrey Hall, Manor. What are you doing? Beating that good puppy crowd in the last round, and we led it 2 lengths, and it worked it off all the way. And I mean, there was nothing wrong about the decision. You could see the puppy.
We then commenced the second round of the Newmarket Gallery Stakes for bitch puppies. First in slips was Cherry Orchard on the red and Cindy again on the white. Both had been out for exactly 71 seconds in their previous courses and therefore met on level terms. Cherry Orchard on the red led by half a length. The hare slightly favouring the red collar. These two bitches were probably level on pace. In a course of 51 seconds, the lead proved decisive, and Cherry Orchard on the red was the winner. The next brace were Its Fly on the red and the Paget on the white. The Paget was slowly away from slips, allowing Its Fly to lead by 5 lengths. The hare raced straight across the field, and in a 30-second course, that was that. Its Fly on the red, a convincing winner.
Red's first there.
This left one course to be run before lunch. And that was the final of the Sutton Manor Trophy, sponsored once again by Newmarket racehorse trainer Tom Jones. And a very interesting final it was too. Juniper on the white had only been out for 97 seconds, whereas Carlton on the red had been out for 179 seconds. Carlton had reached the finals without once leading. Nothing was more certain than Juniper would lead him here. Juniper on the white collar duly led by 4 lengths. And the course was only to last 45 seconds, but amazingly Carlton on the red collar took over. He scored a very strong point here, and I suspect the judge must have given him a go-by here.
Carlton, last year.
He chased the hare to cover. That last turn must have been crucial. And the red collar, Carlton, was the winner of the Sutton Manor Trophy for the 2nd year in succession. A remarkable achievement. We then broke for lunch, the crowd going back to the paddock by the farm, where the catering, as usual, was supplied by the King's Head at Dullingham.
Right.
2 beef?
2 beef?
Yeah.
2 birds.
That's awesome.
3, 450. Looking over this way.
Get the mould off the top, George. Get the mould off it.
16 and 6pence.
37 and 6.
No. You can have a choice for something.
I want that! Damn, because if you got the shot, you could all take the pheasants and you never...
4 finals were due to be run after lunch. The finals of the Newmarket Galleries Cup, the Newmarket Galleries Stakes, the Champion Stakes Purse, and the Champion Stakes itself. The beat moved out, and the crowd walked up to the adjacent field to watch the finals. The first stake to be decided was the Newmarket Galleries Cup Division 1. This was between Wise Bomber on the red, who'd been out for 98 seconds, and Sam Lord, the grand working puppy, on the white, who'd been out for 115 seconds. Unfortunately, it was a short course. Wise Bomber, learning all the time, led on an inside by 2 lengths and immediately pulled down to kill the only hare of the meeting. Wise Bomber on the red collar was the winner. The Newmarket Gallery Stakes for bitch puppies saw a final between Cherry Orchard on the red, who'd been out for 122 seconds, and Its Fly on the white, who'd been out for 74. Its Fly was favoured by the handicap. In a barging run-up, the white collar got the best of it and was clearly the faster.
It's a front dog.
An extraordinarily strong racing hare sped away across the field, allowing Cherry Orchard no chance of scoring. In a one-sided final, Its Fly was a convincing winner. The Champion Stakes purse promised a fascinating final between Earl Marshall on the red, who'd been out for 98 seconds, and Kerry Model on the white, who'd been out for 91. The hare came close to the slipper on his right-hand side, but unfortunately, Earl Marshall on the red was unsighted on the run-up. Kerry Model on the white stays on line.
He's unsighted!
Oh my God.
Although it was obviously unsatisfactory that the pace of these dogs could not be tested adequately, Kerry Model was always going faster throughout the course, and it appears likely that he would have been the winner in any case. The course lasted 41 seconds. Unfortunately, the eagerly awaited final of the Champion Stakes was to prove controversial. Panini on the red collar had been out for 95 seconds, and 1-7 on the white collar had been out for 110 seconds. Unfortunately, although the hare came close to the slipper, Panini on the red collar was obviously unsighted, and 1-7 on the white collar probably lost sight of the hare at some juncture. 1-7 on the white collar was to snatch the first turn. Judge Ronnie Mills awarded Panini 2 points for the subsequent work. And in a 30-second course, that was all the points that were scored. Ronnie Mills pulled the red flag for Panini. The connections of 1-7 accepted this decision most sportingly. However, their example was not followed by some of those who had backed the dog earlier in the day.
Hi, Bill. Well done. Well done.
As it was, the crowd assembled back once again in the paddock for the presentations. Mr. Hopkinson of the British Field Sports Society, Pat Whelan, Nick Reed Herbert, all the sponsors were there to give away their magnificent trophies. Panini on the red collar here seems ready and bursting for his new career at stud.
Right, the winner, Mr. Bill Beaton's Wise Bomber.
The first trophy was given away by Nick Reed Herbert, the Newmarket Galleries Cup, to Mr. Bill Beaton, who owned and trained Wise Bomber, a white and brindled dog by Master Bob out of Wise Bella.
Bill, can you look this way, please? Oh, yeah, I'd love to. Thank you.
Next to receive the trophy was Ian Forbes, the owner of Its Fly, a red and fawn bitch by Dindy's Gem out of Ray's Socks, trained by Peter Sant in Cheshire.
As you know, Nick has been one of the great supporters and very kindly sponsors this stake every year. Now we present the Sutton Manor Trophy.
Di Hayne, daughter of sponsor Harry Thompson-Jones, was on hand to present the Sutton Manor Trophy. Unfortunately, Carlton had gone missing. It transpired that he'd been stolen from his van, and Greville Starkey, the top-class flat race jockey, the dog's owner, and trainer June Darnell were scouring the countryside to find him. Fortunately, he was retrieved eventually from South Mitcham in London 2 days after the meeting. John Hopkinson, the director of the British Field Sports Society, then stepped forward to give away the magnificent Armada Trophy to Alan Campbell, owner of Cassiopeia, a fawn bitch by Lion's Share out of Shades of Satin, trained by Michael Parker, who'd won the BFSS Trophy. Alan Campbell does so much for the publicity side of the Waterloo Cup. His co-owner, Jeff Hayes, is not in picture.
Well done. Well done, the winner.
I'd just like to point out what the British Field Sports Society do for us all, and if it wasn't for all their hard work and generosity, we'd be playing ping pong.
Simon Courtauld, editor of the Field magazine, which has now gone monthly and was the originator of the Champion Stakes, then came forward to present the trophies to the runners-up, Mr. Danny Riordan and Mr. Arthur Pryor, owners and trainers of the unlucky 1 to 7. It was a most unsatisfactory final for all concerned, and they received an enormous and sympathetic cheer.
And Mr. Pryor and Mr. Riordan.
1 to 7 is a white and brindle dog by Balliard Saab out of Pure Poison. I'm sure we'll see a lot more of him in the future.
Present the jug, which is always kindly presented by Mr. and Mrs. Tuck. And I present it to...
Lorraine Sarrid then brought forward Panini, surely the most prolific and consistent greyhound for many years, and received her trophy from Pat Whelan, whose enormous generosity had seen the 10th running of the Champion Stakes made possible. Panini thus became the first dog to win the Champion Stakes in successive years, although of course Southern Melody won it 2 years out of 3. He now retires to stud. He's a third season fawn dog by Glenroe Hiker out of Spring Fair Green.
Giving the original field trophy to Lorraine as well. Well done, Lorraine, and thank you very much indeed, Simon. As you know, the field has now gone monthly, so sadly we don't see quite so much coursing in it. Thank you very much. A big hand, please, for Mr. Courtauld. I'd like to thank Sir Mark, and Francis Kerwin, and Lorraine, and everybody for showing us so much hospitality while we're down here. Especially Francis Kerwin, you should all thank him. He got me on the right night to sponsor.
And so ended the 10th running of the Champion Stakes, a meeting full of interest and controversy as usual.
Get him on the right night.
Closing shot.
Champagne, you're going to have a glass? Never mind the prickies, you're going to come have a glass of champagne.